You know that feeling when you're so lost in a daydream about someone? It almost feels more real, more intense than your actual life. Well, today we're going to dive into this incredibly powerful feeling. It's something a lot of us experience, but hardly anyone can actually put a name to it.
I mean, really think about it. Have you ever had one of those all-consuming crushes? Maybe on someone totally unreachable, like a celebrity, or even a character from a book. It could even be someone you just barely know. It feels a lot like love, right? But what if it's something else entirely?
And this quote from Goethe, wow, it just nails that deep, almost painful intensity we're about to explore. It's that, you know? That feeling of wanting something so badly, it's like a physical weight on your chest. A longing that can just take over everything. All right, so how does a thing like this even start? Well, it usually begins pretty innocently, like any other crush. But then it kind of morphs into this complete secret parallel universe that's just living inside your head. Anne Skye, the author of our source material, she shares her story, and it all started when she was just 12 years old. It began with the boy band Westlife. She and her best friend didn't just listen to the songs. No, they wrote these super elaborate stories, creating this whole world where they were the main characters. And what's so fascinating here is that this fantasy wasn't just an escape. I mean, it was that for sure, but it was also a way for her to feel important, to boost her own self-worth.
And yeah, this wasn't just a one-time thing for her. It turned into a pattern that lasted for over 20 years. First a pop star, then a German punk band, and then, get this, for 18 years, it was Gerard Way from My Chemical Romance. Each new person just stepped into the starring role of this incredibly detailed world inside her head.
So, what happens when that perfect little dream world you've built crashes head-on into cold, hard reality? Well, as you can imagine, the result can be absolutely devastating.
And this is a moment I think a lot of people can relate to if they've ever been in this situation. For the author, it all came down to a single, tiny photo in a magazine. She saw Keon from Westlife with his arm around another woman, a famous singer. And just like that, poof, the entire fantasy just shattered.
I mean, you can just feel the pain in these words. It wasn't just being sad about a crush. When that illusion shattered, it felt like a direct attack on her own self-worth. It was like being violently kicked out of the one world where she finally felt like she belonged, The one place she felt like she was enough.
Let's break this down a bit, because this really gets to the core of it. In her fantasy world, she was the main character. She was special. She was seen. She was wanted. But in reality, especially when things got tough, it just hammered home all of her worst fears, that she was invisible, that she wasn't good enough, that she was just full of doubt.
And living like this, constantly commuting between two worlds, it has real consequences. Even when she was an adult with a husband and kids, the author talks about being there physically, but her mind and her heart were somewhere else entirely. Her soul was off in another city, living another life. And that left her with this horrible feeling that her own children weren't getting the mom they deserved.
So for decades, she went through this cycle over and over, without even knowing what it was. But eventually the pain just got to be too much. And that's what led her to a massive discovery. This thing, it actually has a name.
And that name is limerence. See, it's way more than just a crush. It's this intense, almost compulsive infatuation, and it traps you in this painful, relentless cycle. You're always caught between the amazing high of the daydream and the crushing low of reality. It's basically a cognitive loop. Your brain gets addicted to the little rewards from the fantasy, which makes it incredibly hard to break free. Okay, so why do we get so stuck in this? The author points to a three-part antagonist, if you will. First up is just ignorance. Most of us have never even heard the word limerence. Second, you've got all the powerful romantic myths that our culture just constantly feeds us. And third, well, it's our own brain. Our brain is a natural storyteller, or as she calls it, a trickster, and it loves a good story way more than it loves reality. And this first myth is literally everywhere, right from when we're kids. I mean, think about it. Disney movies, fairy tales, even old Greek myths like Psyche and Eros. We're basically programmed to believe that true love is this cosmic force that can conquer anything. So the message we get is pretty clear. If your feelings are this intense and this difficult, it must be the real deal.
And pop culture just keeps hammering this home. You know that famous line from Notting Hill? It's not just a line in a movie. It's practically a script for how we should feel. It makes our intense longing feel like it's part of some grand romantic destiny. And all that programming makes us feel like we're the hero of a great love story, when really, we might just be trapped in an illusion.
Okay, so if we finally know what limerence is, and we get what keeps us trapped, how in the world do we get out?
Well, the path forward isn't about destroying the dream. It's about understanding what it really means. And this is the key. This is the big shift in thinking. The longing itself isn't the problem. That's a totally normal human feeling. The real issue with limerence is how we interpret that longing. We think it's some kind of message about another person, a sign from the universe, right? But what if it's really a message from ourselves to ourselves?
See, limerence isn't a secret sign that you finally found the one. Nope. Instead, all that intense focus on someone else. It's actually like a giant spotlight pointing directly at what's missing in your own life. Seriously, think about what that person represents. Freedom, creativity, the feeling of being truly seen and understood. That's what your subconscious is really screaming for. The person is just a stand-in, a symbol for your own unmet needs.
And really, this is the biggest takeaway. The whole journey of understanding limerence, it isn't about finally winning over the person you've been dreaming about. It's about taking all of that incredible energy, all that passion and creativity, and turning it back towards yourself. It's about building a life that is so fulfilling, so true to who you are, that you just don't need that fantasy escape anymore. It's about becoming the hero of your own story. So I'm going to leave you with this question to think about. If any of this sounds familiar, try looking at your fantasy not as a place you need to get to, but as a map. What does that person in your head represent? Is it freedom, adventure, being truly seen? Because that's what your soul is actually trying to tell you it needs.
Now, if this really hit home for you and you want to learn more, you can check out the book Loving an Illusion by Anne Skye. And if you're looking for support and connection, there's a community called Limerence Pathfinders over on the school platform. It's a great space to share what you're going through and understand these really powerful feelings with other people who totally get it.